hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15, the 10, the 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
But Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels feared to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season.
And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
And now recorded from the CRW studios in Almost Heaven, West Virginia, it's the Country Roads Webcast with your host, Jordan Cruz.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the CRW podcast here for episode 234, our bye-week Babble edition, off week for the Mountaineers, but we couldn't come at you without an episode this week. We got to talk around the Big 12, still make our game picks here towards the tail end, and we figured it's a perfect time to highlight some of the season stats, talk about some of the grades, and then we're going to hand out our own grades. We're going to give letter grades to each position group, so that's what's kind of on the docket for this one in episode 234. And joining me to do that, of course, we got my co-host Steven in the house.
What's going on, everybody?
Brad out on assignment, but that's all right. We're still going to dive into this one. I think you guys will really enjoy this episode, and we want to hear your all's thoughts as well. Let us know in the comments some of your grades for each position as we go through and provide ours, and kind of your thoughts in general, maybe on some of your picks around the Big 12 even, once we get to that final segment. So without further ado, Steven, let's talk a little bit here. Mountaineers, of course, heading into the bye week, still winless in the Big 12 Conference, 2-4 overall. Bad time for a bye week, really. I mean, I wish we'd had one sooner. 6 games in before we get a bye week, a little rough. But we have a decent sample size to talk some stats, talk some grades, and then hand out some of our own. So let's start it off with the stats on the season, because I think these are kind of telling in a lot of ways. West Virginia's passing leader on the season still remains Nico Marchiol, who, of course, we know no longer with the team, won't be there for the latter portion of the season. 720 yards and 2 touchdowns. He led in yards and touchdowns. Next behind him in yardage is Khalil Wilkins with only 144, has 1 touchdown. Scotty Fox, 118 and 1 touchdown. Jalen Henderson, 50 yards passing on the season. So West Virginia just barely over 1,000 yards passing through 6 games, 1,032 there. Let me pull these up so you guys can see it here on the video side. And Steven, your thoughts here on the passing attack thus far as the quarterbacks are concerned. I mean, obviously, Nico kind of out of the equation now, moving forward. I'm personally thinking it's probably going to be Khalil and Scotty. That's who I'd ride with. If it was me, I'd go with the younger guys, but Jalen will be coming back from injury. You still do have Max Brown sitting around as well, if he's fully healthy after the bye week as well. What are your thoughts on the position, how it's performed, and, what would you do moving forward?
I think overall, looking at it for the entire season, that it's performed well, considering what we thought that it would perform, what the quarterback room would be like going into the season. So overall, I don't think that it has lived up to par. I do think that Nico Marchiol, that 720, is probably going to remain there as the most passing yards for any quarterback on the roster. And what did Nico play, 3 games before he got hurt?
4, I think, 3 or 4.
So yeah, that's staggering and should speak volumes as to what it's been for the quarterback position for West Virginia this year. But moving forward, I think if I were choosing, I would also go with Khalil, mix in a little Scotty. But I think knowing Rich and what we've seen so far this season, I'd be shocked if Jalen wasn't thrown into the mix at least a little bit whenever he comes back from injury.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. That's one thing that's been shown thus far this season. So let's give our letter grade for the quarterback position, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the PFF grades here for the quarterback position. But what would you give it here if you're giving, 8F letter grade here at the quarterback spot, 6 games in, halfway through the season here in the bye week? What would you put it at?
Well, let me ask you this first: are we taking all factors into consideration? Or are we being lenient in that way and
I mean, I
grading it
think
on a
we have
curve, or are we
to.
grading it
I think we have to a
straightforward?
little bit because the offensive line is a separate issue, which we'll get to and cover momentarily. But I think you got to take things into account a little bit because I believe we all know it'd probably be a little bit better in both areas, passing and rushing on this offense, if all things were average.
Okay. Okay. Well, so if we're grading on a curve, I will say C minus. That's what I'll give the quarterback.
Yeah, I'll give it a D. I'll give it a D. And I think if we're talking PFF grades, it's a spot here at this point in the season. When we're looking, let's go quarterbacks. I'm looking here. Offensively, the highest graded quarterback for West Virginia, who would you think it would be, Steven?
The highest rated quarterback?
Yeah, highest graded quarterback on PFF thus far this season for West Virginia. Maybe a little bit of a trick question here, but who do you think it would be?
I mean, considering the amount of time that he's played, I would almost say Scotty, just because he's had the two big runs. I mean, but then I question that because he's had those picks that he threw in the pick game, so that might have brought his grade down. I mean, I don't know. I really
Yeah,
don't know.
that hurt Scotty's grade a lot. That those picks in the pick game. Actually, the highest graded quarterback for West Virginia thus far in the season, Max Brown, 90.1.
I
He's played
mean,
a total of 3 snaps on the season.
okay. Well, that makes sense.
That's why I said it's a little bit of a trick question
Yeah,
there.
that makes sense.
But then behind him, you go Nico with a 68.2 grade, Khalil's at 57.3, Jalen Henderson at 49. And like I said, that game against Pitt really hurt Scotty's grade because he's a 37.9 offensive grade.
I'm curious as to what it would be without those picks.
Yeah, I am too. I am
Curious
too because
because I mean
his
he's backs was absolutely explosive. Other than
well, his
that,
passing grade's what brings it down. He's got the 27.7 passing grade because of those interceptions.
yeah,
Minimal attempts and 2 of them with interceptions. That's going to hurt it.
absolutely.
So that's why his passing grade's so low. But funny enough, not the lowest passing grade on the team. Who do you think has that?
The lowest on the team,
Yeah, passing grade according
Jalen.
to PFF. Yeah, Jalen Henderson slightly
Gotta be.
lower,
Yeah,
25.5.
yeah, gotta be that. He can't. I mean, he hits people in the back because
Yeah.
they're not even looking at the ball.
To make you feel better, Khalil, those up near, he's at 54.5. Nico, of course, was at 66.5 passing grade. No passing grade for Max Brown. Hasn't turned a pass yet in his 3 snaps, but we'll see what happens there. Run grades for those quarterbacks. Max Brown, second highest, 76.5. Highest run grade, actually, Jalen Henderson, 77.4. Then you have Nico with a 62. Khalil with a 60, and Max Brown right at 60 as well as far as run grades at the quarterback position. So let's talk running backs because this is going to be an interesting grade here because when we look at West Virginia's rushing stats on the season, the leading rusher for West Virginia, Ty Edwards, who basically had all of his yardage in one game,
One game.
141 yards versus Pitt. I mean, had the 2 yards on the 2 carries in the previous game, and he's the highest rusher for West Virginia on the season. Then you still have Jaheim White at 133. So Dior Hubbard at 109 is 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth on the team in rushing. But as far as, kind of current active running backs, he'd be number 1 with 109. But rushing stats on the season, West Virginia's leading rusher, Khalil Wilkins, 195 yards. Jalen Henderson right behind him at 146. Leader in rushing touchdowns is a tie between Ty Edwards and Jaheim White at 3. But we're talking, running backs here more so than the quarterback position. Other than those guys, you have Clay Ash, 102 yards on 37 carries. You have Sincere Bowers, 62 yards on 13 carries. Jacklich, 36 yards on 8 carries. As far as the running backs are concerned, Steven, it might be even a lower grade than the quarterback at this point. I mean, it's not been the best since Jaheim White went out. That's something we couldn't have foreseen. And like we said, taking that into account, taking Ty Edwards' health into account, what are you thinking letter grade wise here on the running backs?
I mean, I honestly would give. I hate to be heavy on the minus grades, but I would give it a B minus. Consider
Really?
if we're grading on a curve. I mean, I think that that the running back has been the only unit that has played considerably well. I mean, I'm not saying that they have played above and beyond what they could because, I mean, obviously taking into it, that's obvious, like we said, we're grading on a curve. I'm taking into account the offensive line. I'm taking into account that we lost the premier star running back that we had, and not only just our team or just this league, but could arguably the entire country in Jaheim White. Um, that's taking all of these factors into account. You got a lot of young guys in there. So I would give it a B minus, leaning heavy towards C plus. I think that I think they've done considerably well.
I think that for me, it's like, if I was grading the run game itself, I'd probably put it, similar to what you did because when you look, it doesn't feel like it, but stats wise, West Virginia's actually done a decent job running the football, like you said
And
there.
when we've played well, what has been on
The
offense,
run,
what has
as we
been well,
expect in the
right?
Rich Rod scheme, right? West Virginia averaging nearly 5 yards per carry. They're actually 4th in the conference in rushing yards per game at over 200. They're at like 206 right now in rushing yards per game, so that's good. But just the running back position alone, I think since Jaheim went out, minus the one game from Ty Edwards, and I'll give him, you know, a little bit of a bump because of that, because the big game he had against Pitt, which, probably going to be the best game of the season, right? But since he's been out and since Shaheem went down, it's just not been that great from the running back position itself. So I would probably go like D minus. I would have to go D minus on the running backs personally. I hate to be harsh, but
I mean, I'm just considering the entire season and not just the past couple of games. I
yeah,
mean,
I get
like I
that. I
said,
get that.
when we've done well, that's what's been successful on offense is the running game. So I mean, I'm going to give it the credit where it's due. If we're grading on a curve, if I was grading straightforward the running back position as a whole, I would probably go the same as you, D minus.
Yeah.
But if we're grading on that curve and taking all things into account, I mean, we have depleted running back room entirely. When, like I said, we lose Jaheim White, then you find another person to step in and take that spot in Ty Edwards. He immediately goes down with a hip injury. And then it's just been like dropping like flies ever since for everybody else between Dior Hubbard, Clay Ash, and Kenny Katz, or all these other guys that you would expect to be there to
Like, I
fill
mean,
that void.
I'd
And
love to see
really,
Katzer at some point,
I
man.
would
Hopefully, second
also,
half of the
yeah,
season. Yeah.
yeah, I would too. But I mean, also, I mean, as much as you want to get guys experience and you want to guys get to get guys in there that are young, I mean, how much do you want to throw guys behind this offensive line that's more or less putting you a potential to get, or a high risk to be injured? I mean, because that's what you've seen so far. So do you throw a guy in there to get the experience and then risk his, you know, his season and God forbid his career due to injury because the offensive line can't protect him long enough, whether it be a quarterback or whether it be a running back? I mean, that's what you take into, or that's what I take into account when I'm considering these things because all in all, I mean, it's not going to be a shocker. I know we're going to talk about it here in a second, but I'll go ahead and tell you. I mean, it's a F minus 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 for the offensive line, and that is my. I'm not joking. That's
He's
all
giving you the
seriousness.
preemptive grade.
That's in all seriousness because that is the the precursor to all of these grades on this side of the ball, and maybe even Luke. I mean, as much as I hate to harsh on these guys as much as I am, it maybe even lumps into some of the defensive side of the ball because you can't provide those guys enough, which they finally did a good job in the BYU game, slowing the tempo of the offense down to give you those guys on offense some rest. And it worked well, I think, better than what it has been.
Yeah.
But just taking all things, the offensive line affects so much around the entirety of the football team, not just this one, but I mean all football teams. And when it's this bad, you see how it affects every group. This defense should be one of the most elite defenses in the entire country, and I think they are when they're given the right opportunities.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
the offensive line just can't provide anything. So
I think that's what the fun is of doing this here at the bye week is hopefully we can come back and revisit this like postseason and say, hey, the offensive line went up from this to this or, whatever position group. Hopefully offensive line is the one that we're talking about that improves because we need that in the back half of the season, as you said, which we'll get to momentarily because that definitely affects the run game, like you said. And speaking of that run game, Let's play a little bit of a guess the grade here. I like to throw up the pop quizzes, a little guess the grade here on the PFF side for the running backs, since we're talking running back grade here, and then we'll get into the receivers, and then we'll talk a little bit about that offensive line, which we kind of see what way Steven's leaning. We'll see if I agree here coming up. But running back, who do you think is the highest graded as far as offensive grade at the running back position? Who do you think who's number one there?
Oh man, that's tough too because you got Ty Edwards had a really good game against Pitt. I think Jaheim had up until that point in the Ohio game, he had a good game against Robert Morris, and then up to that point in the Ohio game. I don't know. Would it be Jaheim because he hasn't?
Yeah, he's right there. You're right with your gut feeling for sure because that's the two highest. Ty Edwards slightly higher offensive grade, 74. Jaheim's at 71. And then you go over here to the run grade, and that is gives Ty Edwards a 75, Jaheim White at 71. So right there, similar in both those areas, but definitely the two highest. Next highest in the offensive grades at the running back position would actually be Dior Hubbard, 65. Clay Ash is a 62. Sensor Bowers at a 64. So, kind of similar to what we've seen with the eyes there. I think that Tyler Jacklich would probably have a higher grade. It's kind of similar to what we said about Scotty
I was going to
Fox.
ask about him.
He's the lowest graded, but he had that one fumble. He had the few carries on the season. He had that one fumble, and that hurt him, similar to the way that the interceptions hurt Scotty Fox. That's why I think he's the lowest graded at the position. But you could see, running backs mostly in the 50s and 60s since Ty Edwards and Jaheim went out kind of backs up our grades and backs up what we were saying. Because when you have Ty, if you had Jaheim, imagine if you had both those guys, you got two guys that grade out 70 plus despite not playing a good portion of the season for each of them. And that's, high level starter grade there. That's above average grade when you're talking 70 plus. And those guys will probably be pushing into the 80s if and when they're healthy. And you could have two guys at that level. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what we've seen this season.
Well, looking forward to next season. Got some good news that I seen on social media earlier. That Jaheim is, as of right now, looking to be a go for I think it was fall
Camp, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say they'll sit him out for spring, but they are expecting to be 100% for fall, which is great news.
Great news, absolutely, especially for that type of injury, and that should show. I've told you guys I'm in school, but I'm learning about that kind of stuff right now, and for that kind of timeline, that progression, for that style of an injury, absolutely miraculous. I'm amazed by that for it to be because you got to think those injuries not even just a decade ago were potential career enders, especially for a running back. So for him to be able to turn around in less than a year and make that turnaround, that's amazing. So kudos to the doctors working with him.
Shout out to Jaheim, man. He's a hard worker
And Jaheim, absolutely.
friend of the show, right? So
absolutely,
definitely, we're a big fan of him here. You guys know he's my favorite player. So moving on here, talked about the run game a little bit here. Let's go to the receivers. Talk a little about the receiving stats this season. We'll give a grade to the receivers. We'll give a grade to the tight ends. And then we'll go O-line to wrap up the offense. But talking receivers, of course, some of the receivers have made plays in the run game. I probably should highlight that as well. Bowie being the main one there when he had that 68-yard carry on the reverse in the game against Utah. He leads the receivers in rushing with 76. You've had a few carries for Rodney Gallagher at 41. Man Singleton, who, of course, if you guys saw the update here on the channel, on the YouTube side of things, no longer with the team, had 34 before his departure. So you do have a few receivers that got carries, but we're talking receiving stats here and kind of going to grade them on that side of things. Number one, of course, leading the team in catches, leading the team in yards and touchdowns. I think no surprise, as we talked about coming into the season, Cam Vaughn, 19 catches, 320 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Behind him, you only have two guys that are over 100-plus yards. Those would be Grayson Barnes at 132, has 1 touchdown in the season, and Rodney Gallagher at 126. Both of those guys are also the only guys that have double-digit receptions on the year. They both have 13. Jaden Bray, still your 4th leading receiver with 95 yards, despite being injured, second game of the season, right when Jaheim White was. I think that goes to tell you really need somebody to step up at that second receiver spot. You got a couple guys that have been battling for that in Justin Smith-Brown, who has 4 catches, 79 yards, and Jeff Weimer, 4 catches, 66 yards. Behind them, you have Clay Ash, 9 catches, 55 yards, Preston Fox, 3 catches, 46 yards, and then not much there other than those guys. So talking receivers first, then we'll talk more tight ends because I think we got to take blocking into account in addition to receiving there. But when we're looking at the receivers, Steven, letter grade for those guys.
I got to be honest, man. I'm going to go with the D. Just taking into consideration they've had good moments. Rodney's had good moments. Cam's had good moments. Jeff Weimer's had good moments. But as a whole, I just don't think that they've lived up to par. I think that they've left a lot on the table. I think that they've, just thinking recently about Cam Vaughn and that interception that he just let bounce off of his chest. Going back to a few more, the first game in the Robert Morris game, it's Robert Morris, and you have 2-3 fumbles in the first half, and 2 of those were from your wide receiver. So,
Yeah.
I think as a whole, for what the potential could have been. Again, we're sitting here yet another year talking about in the preseason, talking about how deep of a receiving core that we're supposed to have, and then yet here again we are in week 5, 6, whatever it is, talking about how depleted of a wide receiver room that we have, and now it's even worse because we don't have anything to help fill that void or fill that gap. So for what they were supposed to be versus what they are now, even with grading them on a curve, I'm gonna go with a D, straight D.
Okay. And that's understandable. I think that this is where we differ a little bit. I kind of feel similar to how you felt, with grading the running back position and putting these receivers on a curve for me, because I think I see like one of the type of guys that we need within a lot of guys, some of which that we haven't seen yet. Like I think Christian Hamilton has a lot of potential for the future. Maybe we'll see him in the back half of the season. Armani Weaver, maybe we'll see him more in the back half of the season now that we're down one slot receiver. But even guys that we've seen play more recently, like Gerard Bowie, I know it's his last year, but I think he's got some explosiveness to his game. Obviously, we know Cam Vaughn. I think he's one of the not only better receivers in the conference, but could be one of the better receivers in the country if we had a bit the better O-line that we talked about and more ways to get him the football. Hopefully find better ways to get the ball in his hands in the second half of the season, despite the couple mistakes that he's made, like you mentioned with the fumble. And then, of course, that should have been touchdown that turned into interception in the most recent game against BYU, unfortunately. I really do like Cam Vaughn. Gallagher's had his moments as well. I think we got some guys with potential there still yet. So if I'm grading that on a curve, I'd go C- at receiver. I feel like I like some of the talent there. I like some of the speed there. So talking about those now, let's go guess the grade
Let me
here at the
provide some
receiver position.
context
Okay, go
here
ahead. Throw it in real
because I
quick.
feel
Throw it
like
in.
I feel like I know the reason that we're differing. I think it's because the perception that we're looking at it is slightly different. So you're looking at it through the perspective lens of, this is the talent that we have in the wide receiver room versus this is the talent that we have in the running back room, more or less,
Yes.
correct? Whereas
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as this is the talent where we have in the wide receiver room and we're not doing anything with it versus this is the talent we have left in the running back room and we're able to still, be more successful with the running game than we are with the passing game. So I'm not, you know what I mean? I guess
Mhm.
we're both looking at the same things. I'm just looking at it slightly different into what I'm
Yeah, that's true.
and the way I'm looking at it, I guess.
That's what makes it fun to see how we're going to grade
Yeah,
this thing out
no
because
doubt.
it's been such a,
No doubt.
mixed bag, especially on offense this season.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess in some ways it's the I don't know. It's not fun to grade at all. I'm not having fun grading this side of the ball. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
the defense.
it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And then defense would have been easier for me to grade 2 weeks ago versus now as well. So I'm excited to
Very
get
true.
there also. But
Very
offense, speaking of grades, how about guess the grade here at the receiver position, Steven? Because who would you think would be our highest graded receiver according to PFF this season?
I mean, I really, honestly,
I'm gonna trick you
I,
again, probably. I'll tell you that much.
probably who's the one that's only had one catch. It's got to
That's
be.
literally actually true. That's literally true.
I know it has. It has to be. It has to be. Who's the one person? It's got to be one catch for a touchdown.
No, it wasn't a touchdown, but it was a nice
No,
play.
for a long
And
play.
he was open on another play, and they missed him slightly that I can think of.
Oh, shoot. What game? Can you tell me what game without giving it away?
I can tell you he's played in 2 games.
First two.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember right off. Probably.
He's like, I'm not giving it away. Shit.
But it's not a younger guy. He's actually a senior transfer.
Senior transfer, not a younger guy.
Outside receiver. Tall. Maybe one of the tallest outside receivers we got.
I don't know, man. With Christian Hamilton,
No.
he's not. He's
But
not.
that's somebody I'm hoping to see more. That's somebody I think has a bright future. But
He's a sophomore, I believe.
Logan Ramper.
Yeah. See, nope, that was way off. I would never have
Logan
guessed it.
Ramper.
Logan Ramp.
2 games, 7 snaps, 6 of them in run blocking, 1 reception, but he has nearly a 78 offensive grade, 74 pass catching grade there, according to PFF. Then next behind him would pretty much be what you would expect. I think Justin Smith Brown is, I'm not, excuse me, not just Jaden Bray, 71.7, 71.2 pass receiving grade there. And then, of course, Cam Vaughn, who, much like we talked about with other positions, would be higher without the fumble, and that should have been touchdown catch that turned into an interception, but
Well, that's
he's
2
still
fumbles now, right?
66.
He was one of the ones that fumbled in the Robert Morris game? Or am I
Yeah, I think
wrong?
you got I think that first one counts as a fumble, the other one probably just a drop, and then, of course, turns into an interception, but
Right.
he still grades out at a 66 offense, 66 pass catching grade, which isn't bad despite those 2 mistakes. I mean, without those, you're probably talking 75 plus, which is phenomenal and put him, near the top of not only the receiver grades, but the offensive grades. But I think that's what we talk about, needing to see guys step up, because if you eliminate Ramper, who's only played 7 snaps, that puts Jaden Bray as your highest graded receiver at nearly a 72, and he hasn't played since the second game of the season. Then you have Cam Vaughn, as expected. Then behind them, next highest graded receiver goes all the way down to a 63 with Gerard Bowie and Rodney Gallagher, and then no one else is 60 plus. So got to have some guys step up at the receiver position there for the Mountaineers for sure.
Yeah, and I think that they did well, out in Provo the other night against BYU of mixing things up. Well, not all the time. I think a lot of the time it was same old song and dance is, in reference to, zone read, zone read, zone read, inside zone, outside zone, inside zone. Like just as I get it that that's the offense. I understand that. I do. But if you don't have the offensive line personnel to be able to execute that correctly, then you're not going to be successful at it. So you're just going to go 3 and out 15 times in a row. I just, again, I understand, more than willing to admit that I am an armchair coach at this point in my life. I do not know as much about football, especially offensive football, as Rich Rodriguez. If Jaheim or anybody from the coaching staff is by chance watching this show, or any fans think that I'm trying to portray that, I am not. But it is very difficult to watch the same exact play be ran 15 times in a row with the same result, is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? So I do, with that said, back to what I was saying, kudos to them for switching things up and running some of those reverse plays to where they did actually do the reverse and run it across field, because they were successful on that play at least twice, I remember. And once they were able to mix it up and get the ball spread out, that's when they were most successful on offense from what it looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. I feel where you're coming from there. So let's round it out on offense here. Let's talk tight ends, and then we still got to get to the offensive line, which I don't think will take as long. So tight ends here, which I think it's interesting because you got to look at it from 2 aspects, like receiving and blocking. Because I think receiving wise, when you look, Grayson Barnes, second on your team in receptions, yardage, and touchdowns, that's good. Maybe not quite as much, yardage as you thought you'd get out of him, but still being second on the team at this point is nice, with 13 for 132. Then you have Barrick, who's had 2 catches for 22, Ryan Ward 1 for 13 as far as tight ends that have gotten reception. But I think that they've left a lot to be desired in the run blocking aspect more often than not. And, that kind of hurt us a little bit, not only the offensive line struggling to block, but sometimes the tight end position. So if I'm giving a grade on this one, I think I'd go C minus here. Since I've let you go first all the time, I'll throw mine out there first on this one for the tight ends. Probably C minus, but if they could improve their blocking, they could be C plus at minimum, I think, moving forward, because I do like Ward. Being a redshirt freshman has a ton of potential for the future. Barnes has a great receiving tight end. Just if he continues to improve his blocking, that'll be great. And then I think Barrick has the experience in this offense. We just need him to stay healthy, so they can improve. But I'm going C minus right here. What about you as far as the tight end, Steven?
Again, looking at it from a slightly separate lens, with what talent we have in that room right now versus how they have performed to this point in the season, I'm going to go D plus. I would go on the opposite side of you. So I think they, like, again, a lot of echoing what I said about the wide receivers a second ago. I think they have the potential to be very talented. I think they are very talented. I just think they, need to do a better job of displaying that and executing that, especially in the run blocking, because that just feeds into the offensive line. I mean, that blocking and off fronts has been abysmal, whether it's offensive line, tight end, running back, whoever. we cannot block. It's just
Yeah, I
plain.
mean, just to back that up with the grades, I mean, you look at the run blocking grades of our tight ends. Jacob Barrick's at a 70. Every other tight end we have is 58 or below. Ryan
Right.
Ward's at a 48 in run blocking grade. Grayson Barnes is at a 38 in run blocking grade, which is absolutely abysmal. And that's why Barnes' grade is so low. He's, at PFF, his offensive grade's a 48. And that's because he has a 61 in the pass receiving game, but a 42 pass block grade and a 38 run blocking grade. So that's why I'm saying if he can improve in his blocking aspect, he could
Well,
absolutely be,
hey,
a much better weapon in this thing. And also getting Barrick healthy helps because they've really only had Barnes and then had to really rely on the redshirt freshman Ward. Barrick's the good blocking tight end. He's at a 72 pass block grade and a 70 run block grade. So, we need him healthy this back half of the season will help us for sure.
I'll give him a little bit of an asterisk just because Grayson himself, just because he caught the game tying touchdown to send it to overtime versus
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm giving him all the credit there. So I'll give him a D plus plus. I'll give him the plus on the end of
I wouldn't consider him a disappointment by any means or anything
no.
like that. It's just, that's
I'm not
the way it's crumbled here. I'm just throwing out the grades. You know what I'm saying? No judgment.
I want to throw that in there too. I'm not talking about any of these guys as if I'm disappointed in them. I want that to be very well known in every episode that we record this season. Anything that is portrayed as negativity is coming from a place of understanding. I get it. I understand what it is.
We're trying to be objective.
86 new players. You have a ton of injuries in the worst spots you can afford them at on the offensive side of the ball where you couldn't afford them at. Hey, it is what it is, and that's just what this season is. So anything that I say is, like Cruz says, we're just trying to shoot it to you straight. It's not coming from a place of harshness or disappointment. I obviously disappointed in loss. Always, never want to lose. As far as individual players, even when as bad as I'm about to talk about this offensive line here in a second, because I'm going to. It's not about anybody individually. It's not personal. I'm fully understanding of what the situation is at hand. But I like to throw that in there for anybody that because I know we sometimes have people that view this show and think that we're just harshing on players, and I don't never want that to be the case.
Yeah, well said. So let's do it. Let's hit the offensive line real quick. We'll keep it brief, and then we'll switch over talk defense. So offensive line, man. I mean, your grade?
Offensive line?
Yes.
I was just kidding before. It's really just an F minus.
Just the F minus.
It's not F minus minus.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say F. I'll say F.
I gotta go F minus.
I might go F plus just because last week there were some guys that I thought I was kind of harsh on that really performed well, especially in the pass protection side of things. And I think they have shown a little bit of life in pass protection. Run blocking's just been abysmal, so I'll go F instead of F minus.
Okay, I'll give you my thought process. While they showed a little bit of improvement last week, what they improved to was not even up to half of the par of what they really should be. And like I said, I understand. I get it. We got new players, a lot of pieces that are being, placed together that have never played together before. Even though they have a lot of, individual experience, that doesn't always equate to being talented together and meshing well. I get it. But I mean, there's times where I'm looking at players that are blocking the wrong technique. They're blocking the wrong assignment. There's players running free. There's 2 or 3 players running free, whether it's from a defense, edge rusher, linebacker, nose guard, whoever. I mean, there are multiple players along these defensive fronts that are leaking free all throughout the game. I mean, and it's hard to watch because, like I said before, it's getting players at high risk to be injured. And that's something we very largely cannot afford, especially being in the position that we're at already. So I just mean, while they've shown a little bit of improvement, I'm not going to give. What's the nicest way to say this? I'm not going to give them credit off of what they should be. Right? I guess is the nicest way to put it. And I'll be more than vocal about that, as I will be more harsh grading an offensive line than I will be on potentially any other position group on the football team, just because it is that important to me. I will always argue that the offensive line as a unit is a harder position than the quarterback in all of sports. Everybody says the quarterback, and it is a hard position. I played it. I get it. It is. Offensive line is the one that protects that position and has to mesh well and know their assignments well enough to be able to protect not only that quarterback but everybody else.
Yeah. And just to kind of back up our grades there and back up what you're saying, yes, the pass blocking grades haven't been as bad as the run blocking grades, but this is an offense that's run centric, and only 2 of West Virginia's starters have a run blocking grade higher than 55. The other 3 have a run blocking grade of 55 or below, including one starter that has a run blocking grade of 39. And when that's happening, that's not going to work. So definitely something that you have to hope some of these younger guys, whether they get reps later in the season or not, are really the guys moving forward, and some of the guys that you're bringing in from high school next year and in the portal are the guys, because a lot of these seniors you brought in the portal this year didn't pan out for this scheme, unfortunately, and that's just where it's been on the offensive line. Thus, for this part of the season, I'd love to eat crow on it in the back half of the season and see them improve, but
No,
that's where it is.
no doubt.
Defensively, Stephen, let's flip it over. Let's talk a little bit about that here, get to some grades on that side.
You don't want to grade
Because
Cade Hensley, bro? You just going to leave Cade up there by himself?
special
messed
teams,
up.
man. We can throw a special teams grade out there. I think it's been mixed. I'd probably go right down the middle, just like straight C plus.
Yeah, same. We ain't gonna waste no time on that. C plus. Missed a few,
C
made
plus.
some good ones.
Ollie Straw's been great punting.
Ollie Straw.
Hensley's been pretty much good kicking, besides that one that he missed, early in the backyard brawl. But the touchdowns and the long kick returns hurt. So yeah, I think C plus is fair.
Same.
All right, defensively, some stats to look at here. Then we'll go through each position group and grade. I'll throw out some stats really quickly. As far as some stat leaders, total tackles, Fred Perry with 43. No surprise there. Behind him, you got Darian Lewis with 36 and Chase Wilson with 30. Then we go here to the sack leaders on the team. We go ahead and sort that. So we have Chase Wilson with 3. We have 2 guys with 2, those being Ham Russell and Eddie V, the 2 tackles. 1.5 for Reed Carrico. 1 sack each for Curtis Jones, Fred Perry, and Marshawn Oxley. Interception leader on the team is Darian Lewis with 2 and Chase Wilson with 2. Nick Taylor with 1, Ben Cutter with 1. We also have, of course, forced fumbles, 2 for Fred Perry, both those coming in one game, even recovered one of those. So Fred Perry definitely a standout on this defense. But if we're going through grading it by groups here, let's talk defensive line, Stephen, for West Virginia. And we're just kind of talking tackles, DNs. We'll grade the Bandits separately here. But if we're just talking D-line, I think personally, I've actually been pretty impressed with a lot of our D linemen. I don't think they've been an issue for the most part. We've done a good job stopping the run in a lot of situations. I know we haven't got as much pressure as of late, but I don't know if that's all on them per se. Physically, did they hold up in the past couple of games necessarily? No, but that might be more of just being overmatched than anything else. I think the effort's there. So I think on defensive line, I would probably go B minus, maybe C plus.
I no waste of time. Echoed thoughts. B minus is what I was going to go with. I think that they've performed well. I think if they'd have a bit more time to rest on the sidelines between drives. They might even be a little bit more impressive on some of these other drives that you've seen them kind of falter and get gassed. So taking all things into account, I think B minus is very fair.
Yeah. And speaking of higher graded defensive linemen, PFF, one of those is Devin Grant. He's the highest graded defensive lineman overall and in run defense, actually our second highest graded player on defense in general. Highest graded if you're counting guys that have played a ton of snaps. So, I think getting him back for the back half of the season is important. We've seen him be impressive. We've seen Ellie Kelly be impressive. But Eddie V, the second highest graded D lineman. So glad to see that with nearly a 73 defensive grade. Let's talk Bandits, man, because I think when we're talking Bandits, that's an area where we have some guys, man. We have guys that you see them sometimes explode off the edge. We've seen multiple of them play together, and there's been times where I'm like, man, those guys are jumping off the screen if I'm watching on TV, or they're really popping there if you're watching them in person. But, when you're talking Curtis Jones, you're talking Braden Siders, you're talking Marshawn Oxley, and of course, Jamori Robinson. Yes, they have the potential, and I think you can see some of the athleticism from a lot of those guys. But overall, I've been a little bit disappointed, especially with what I thought Jamori Robinson, the impact that he would have. So I think I got to go C minus at the Bandit spot. What about you, Stephen?
I feel what you're saying. I think that it looked really promising there for the first couple of plays that you've seen Jamori Robinson on the field when he first came back. Being able to watch him and Eddie Kelly coming off of those edges, I mean, it was like, dang, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to stop those two. But from that point, they haven't really been able to cause much havoc. So I think with the potential of how good they can be versus how bad they've been, considering that, I would say the same about C minus.
Yeah.
I might say C just because they have performed somewhat well at times. But the potential that's there is not just not coming to fruition. Hopefully that changes though, because that's
Yeah,
one
I
thing
hope
that
so.
I think can really help cause some disruption and to help some, get some momentum in other areas.
Yeah. And like I said, I think, it's not all bad, just not exactly as explosive as we thought it'd be. Because when you look at the grades and you look at the QB pressures, according to PFF, Braden Sider's second on the team with 13 pressures. Curtis Jones tied for third on the team with 8 pressures. So that's 2 bandits right there. I think then you go on down the line, Marshawn Oxley with 5 and Jamori Robinson with 3. So I think you're wanting to see Jamori be more explosive in the back half of the season, because if you can do that and then pair him with the other guys that you've had really show out in the front half of the season, you definitely have potential. And I think that's why we're giving them the decent grade that we are there at that spot. So then let's talk linebackers here, because I think when we talk total tackles here on this defense, we have Chase Wilson with 30, we have Reed Carrico with 27, you have Ben Cutter with 23. So that right there is 3 linebackers in your team with 20 plus tackles, and then you go not far behind them. Ben Bogle with 16, hasn't played a ton but has stood out some, and then Ashton Woods is a redshirt freshman with a ton of potential, has 15 tackles of his own. So I think linebacker, you can look at it maybe similar to the way you're looking at Bandit. It depends on just kind of how you're feeling about it, I guess, because on any given day, because early in the season, I would have graded it super high. Now later, I think we have some guys that are really great coming downhill and attacking, but pass coverage we've shown to be a little bit susceptible there, both at this level and in the secondary, which we'll talk about momentarily. But I think handing out letter grade at the linebacker position, I still think it's one of our stronger positions on the defense, so I'd probably have to go B minus. What about you, Steven?
I'm taking into consideration how well they played in the first few games anyway. Up to that Kansas game, I thought that they performed considerably well. So I'll probably go straight B. I think Chase Wilson has performed really really well. I think Reed Carrico has been a formidable leader along the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, as a whole unit, I'd put them at a B. Lately, they have been struggling though, so the B minus is valid.
Yeah. Like I said, mine would have been maybe B plus A minus earlier in the season. It dropped a little bit there, but one of your highest graded tacklers on the season's been Bogle with nearly an 87. He also has nearly an 88 run defense grade, but a 40 coverage grade. To kind of back up what I'm talking about kind of the style of linebackers that we have, just have some that are a little bit susceptible in coverage, which drops the grade for me a little bit. But I think you got some really good tacklers that can really attack with Bogle, with Wilson, with Carrico. So, still one of our higher graded units to this point in the season. So don't want to harp on it too much or anything by any means there on this side of things. So then let's move on here to the secondary, because, let's go past deflections. You do got 2 for Michael Coates. You do got 1 for Jason Chambers. Interceptions have come from the safety spot, with 2 with Darian Lewis. And we'll just kind of group all these in together here, corners and safeties, just for time purposes for the episode, Stephen. But I think yet again, it's kind of similar. 2 weeks ago, I felt like our secondary was really impressive. Michael Coates had only allowed a couple catches all season, but then the BYU game happens. He gives up a few big plays, not all of them necessarily his fault, but then he grades out really low. That hurts his grade. Jason Chambers hasn't been bad on the other side. So I think there has been some bright spots for our secondary. Is it improved from last season? I would say so. But is it improved enough? I think the jury's still out on that after what we've seen here early in Big 12 play. I'm still worried about the secondary against some of these teams we have to face in the back half of the season. So because of that, I would probably have to go C minus right now. I would maybe go C. I'll go right down the line C, actually, for defense, for the secondary in general, because you do have some standout players with Fred Perry at that nickel spot, Darian Lewis leading the team in interceptions at the box safety. But this is where the weakest spot of the defense has been, in my opinion, is the field safety spot. Much like we talk about on offense, where the offensive line and certain areas of that offensive line have been the weak spot. On defense, it's been field safety, because you started the year with Izzy Boyce there, struggled a little bit. You bring in Tarnu. Tarnu's been really good in run defense and tackling, but has been a liability in coverage, and teams have targeted him. So then they pull him out. They bring in Derek Carter. They play Nick Taylor there some, and those are the kind of two main ones you've seen play in that field safety spot. So maybe if they can improve in the back half of the season, that'll help bring the secondary up as a whole. But for now, I'm gonna have to go C across the board as my letter grade for the secondary. What about you, Steven?
Yeah, almost exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, right down the line on C, possibly leaning C minus. Just because, the defense as a whole performed really well, but that's been the unit that has given up most, if not all, of the big plays that we've given up on defense, especially those big pass plays that you've seen later in the games. A lot of times, they lull that defense to sleep, and then they find a big gap in the secondary. So yeah, I would have to go probably right down the line on C.
Yeah,
There's
we're in
potential
agreement.
there as well. I think
There
Michael
is.
Coates, a lot of potential. Jason Chambers, I think there's a lot of potential there. A lot of potential between all of these guys. But
For sure.
if Fred Perry could play every position on the defensive
Yeah, we
side of
just
the ball,
said,
we'd be in great shape.
yeah, if we could just clone that guy, get us about 9 more of him on defense, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I think that goes hand in hand with when we look at the grades here. One more time of guess the grade here, Stephen, before we move on to our Around the Big 12 segment to wrap up our bye-week Babble episode. Who do you think is our highest graded defender in coverage according to PFF this season, which is actually the only defender that we have with a 70-plus coverage grade? And yes, I am probably going to trick you again, but who do you think it is?
Oh dang! I thought this one was going to be obvious.
It's not somebody that's not played a lot. This person's played in every game. He has over 200 snaps on the season, but he only has 18 snaps in coverage, but he is our highest graded in coverage on the season.
Honestly, I'm not even going to give you. I'm going to give you what I was going to say, but I don't know. I really don't know. I was going to say Michael Coates.
Hey, Michael Coates isn't far behind. He's your highest graded corner in coverage, actually. But the highest graded defender in coverage, Braden Siders, the Bandit,
Okay.
77.0 coverage grade in his 18 snaps in coverage.
Okay.
Which, like I said, hasn't been asked
I
to do a
wasn't
lot, but at least he's
considering.
performed well when he has.
I wasn't even considering the linebackers in there. I was just strictly thinking cornerback safeties.
Yeah, that's why I said I figured I'd probably trick you again on that
Yeah,
one.
you did. You did.
Then you have Derek Carter Jr. with a 68.5 coverage grade. I think that that's a positive if we're talking about that field safety position and trying to find something there. He seems to be one of the better ones that's played there as far as coverage is concerned. So maybe that's the answer moving forward. We'll see. Like I said, Michael Coates, your highest graded corner, 66 coverage grade, which without the game against BYU, you probably have him as your highest graded coverage player on the team, I would say. So that probably dropped him a decent little bit. But then behind him, you have to go all the way down to number 10 to get to your next highest graded corner, Jason Chambers at a 62, Scooter Scruggs at a 61, and then not much behind them secondary wise coverage. Despite a couple interceptions, Darren Lewis is all the way down at a 59 coverage grade on the season. So, mixed bag, but I do, like you said, I think we have some potential there as far as we're talking wrapping up grades there. But that's what we wanted to talk about stats wise, as such, as far as we're concerned there individually. Team stats for the Mountaineers, just to wrap up our bye-week Babble segment before we hit it with our Around the Big 12 and give our picks in some of the games this week. West Virginia, at this point in time, averaging 22 points per game. They are averaging 172 passing yards per game. We have 4 passing touchdowns on the season versus 6 interceptions. God, hope we can change that back portion of the season. Have ran for over 1,200 yards, over 200 yards per game, 13 rushing touchdowns. We're averaging 378 yards as an offense thus far this season. Does it have the defensive stats on here? I guess it doesn't. I was trying to see where we were giving up, but I guess it doesn't have it on here on ESPN. So, but those are the offensive stats for the team. Blame ESPN for that one. But there we go. Figured that's pretty in-depth kind of way to give our thoughts. Whoops, didn't mean to take you off there, Steven. Sorry, man. Sorry, Steven, you're out. You're out for the back half of the show. You're out for the
Chris said you don't get to do
segment.
you don't get to do the show no more.
But for
I
you guys
quit
on
my
the video
job
side,
today to do this
actually,
show, and this is my show.
For you guys on the audio side, I accidentally kicked Steven off the screen there. Didn't mean to, but with that being said, Steven, we got to wrap this episode up the way we always do. We got to talk around the Big 12 here. Getting into week 7, hard to believe that deep in the season already. It's flying by, but I always enjoy this segment just for shits and gigs here at the end, right? Making our picks in some of these games around the conference. And it's even more fun when West Virginia's off. We can make it even more enjoyable because we don't have to stress it. Just can watch a little college football or whatever
The
you
good
want
news
this
is we
Saturday.
can't lose this weekend.
Exactly. The bye week can't beat us, as far as I know.
I mean, that's not true. But as far as win-loss records, we can't go in the loss column.
That's true.
Can't go in the win column either, I guess, but you can't go in the loss column.
But we got a nice little Saturday slate, all Saturday games in the conference here this week in week 7. So let's dive into our final segment, and we'll kick it off with talking about the team that West Virginia will face coming out of the bye week, which that's a 1 p.m. kick on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max coming up on the 18th as West Virginia travels to UCF for their next game of the season after this bye week. And if you want to watch and scout the Mountaineers' next opponent, you can, as they'll take on a red-hot Cincinnati team at Cincinnati at noon on Fox Sports 1 this Saturday. Steven, who do you like in this one?
I gotta say, my gut feeling goes with Cincinnati, but I really want to say, actually, you know what? I got a guy for Cincinnati on my fantasy team too. I was gonna pick UCF because I got his running back on my fantasy team, but got to play for both of them, so I'm gonna go with my gut, Cincinnati. I think they're a much better team than what people think that they are. At this point in the season, I've watched them a couple of times. Their offense is better than what people think. Well, their defense is susceptible at times, but they can keep them in games when they have to. And I think UCF isn't that great of a football team this year. So Cincinnati at home. Go Bearcats.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, man. They're rolling right now. They're at home. I think that they got a chance to be a surprise team in the conference. I don't know how high they'll finish in the conference rankings because I think there's maybe a lot of parity there in that within that top 5 in the conference. But they're looking good right now, and I think they get another win. I'm gonna go Cincinnati also. Then we have another noon game in the conference there. Houston traveling to Stillwater, TNT and HBO Max, noon kick. Who do you like as the Cougars take on the Cowboys?
You know, Oklahoma State's been playing better since Gundy's been gone. But I think Houston has also shown some improvement this year on how they've been playing. So I'm going to rock with the Cougars, man. I think Houston's playing good.
Yeah, I think Houston bounces back, gets a win there. So we're in agreement thus far. I'm going Houston there as well. Then we got a game in Colorado. They're in Boulder, 3:30 kick on ESPN. The Iowa State Cyclones looking to bounce back after that loss to Cincinnati, but they got to go do it on the road, and they got to go do it against Coach Prime's team there, the Colorado Buffaloes. How are you feeling about this one, Stephen?
I think this has potential to be game of the week. I'm curious to know what is. It's probably that next one we're getting ready to do.
No, it's the late kick.
It's the late kick. Okay. So Kansas, Texas is the game of the week?
Nope.
Or BYU? Oh, okay. Didn't know that was a matchup. Okay, anyway, going back. I do like what I've seen out of Colorado so far. I know that they're not the best team in the conference, but they're not the worst team in the conference. I think that they have talent in certain areas. The quarterback position hasn't looked the best at times, but when they do look good, they look really, really good. With that being said, Iowa State lost last week in an upset loss. I think Rocco Beck and the Cyclones are going to get a big bounce back win out in Boulder. So give me the Cyclones.
Man, this thing might be really boring if we keep agreeing all the way through, but I'm right there with you too, man.
We got the same mind, man. I swear.
So.
When it comes to picks, especially, we've always been large.
Yeah, we've always usually pretty
this.
close. We're pretty close on those. Maybe this next one will be a little bit more interesting because I think a lot of these Final Four games, a little bit more parity involved in these maybe. So TCU, Kansas State in Manhattan, 3:30 kick as well. This one on Fox. I guess I'll take this one first, Steven, since I've made you go first on the first few. I think this is interesting. Purple team versus other purple team.
Yeah.
They're in
Almost
Manhattan.
The same shade, too.
Yeah. Kansas State been playing better as of late. But I still really like TCU and still feel like they're one of the better teams in this conference potentially. I think Josh Hoover and those guys rolled in, and I'm going with another road win. I think the Horned Frogs get it done on the road. Give me TCU. Who you got, man?
Same. I got TCU as well. I think Kansas State has played well up to this. They've played well at times, but up to this point in the season, they have been kind of a disappointment as to where they expected to be up to this point. You know, that first game, obviously over in Dublin against Iowa State. That didn't come out on top of that game, and I think they've just kind of never really bounced back from that. They've won a couple of games. Not to say that they haven't played well, but they were they were in talks to be one of the top teams in the conference this year, and they just aren't. To me, I think there's several teams above them right now, so I think TCU rolls.
Yeah. Hey, we're still in agreement on
Still in
our picks
agreement,
thus
buddy.
far.
I don't think
With
it's going
3
to change
games.
over this next one unless you shock me.
We'll see here. 3 games to go on the slate here in week 7, and we've reached the evening portion of the week 7 slate here as a 7:30 Eastern kick for Kansas in Lubbock. It's a night game in Lubbock, as if that's not hard enough. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you this, and this will give away my pick because I think Texas Tech is a top 5 team in the country right now. That's how impressed I've been with those guys. I think they got a chance not only to win this conference, but to maybe compete nationally. That's how impressed I've been with them, how fast their team looks, how good their defense has been. We know Texas Tech's always been known for offense, but they have a really impressive defense now to go with it. Don't like the logo rebrand they did. I don't know if you guys
I
saw
actually
that.
do. I do like
But,
it. Not gonna lie.
I'm not a fan. I like the more silver and black in there. Now it's just like red and white. I'm not the hugest fan of it, but I think they've got a good team. So who cares? Because they're going to win this game. Give me Texas Tech.
You know what? About a minute and a half, I don't know, what was it, 45 seconds ago, before we started this particular game on this segment, I was going to say the same thing, and largely for the same reasons. But I changed my mind. I changed my mind during your little speech, and here's why.
Oh,
Texas Tech has always, and I mean always, for as long as I've been alive, and if you look into history, I'm sure that it's been longer than that, always choked at some point in the season when they have supposed to be, this good. Kansas is just talented enough on both sides of the ball that they could provide that type of an upset. And I like Jalen Daniels. I like the way that Kansas plays whenever they play well. So just on a sheer whim, I'm going to go with the Jayhawks. I'm going to take them to upset the Red Raiders and give this conference a little interesting dynamic going into the last half of the season.
hey. And all the viewers and listeners said thank you for making it interesting.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. It's not just to make it interesting either. I believe in the Jayhawks.
He
Okay.
believes in them. Yeah, you never know. You never know what could happen. Stranger things have happened. Upsets get pulled all the time.
Hey,
What
I am like 4-0 in like those major upsets that
you have
I've
made
been
some upset picks this season.
so-called, crazy for picking them. I know ball. I'm just a
He
ball
knows
nut.
ball. Steven knows ball, guys. Which brings us to our final 2 games in our slate here in week 7. First up, we got BYU at Arizona, 8:00 kick, ESPN2.
Yep.
Hey, I'm not picking against BYU with Steven on the show, man. Who knows? He might yell at
Hey,
me
what is it?
immediately.
Go
So
Cougars.
I got to give it to the Cougars. They're going to get the road win.
Whatever they do. Go Cougars. Yeah. BYU.
Yeah, we knew that was coming. Much like I got a feeling who Steven might pick in our game of the week this week, but this is a big game for the Big 12 Conference for the standings as we continue here through the 2025 season, because these are a couple of teams right here that are both competitors right now for potentially making that conference title game in Arizona State, the defending champs, and Utah, who looks a little bit better this season. And it is in Utah, so they do have that advantage, and it is the 10:15 Eastern kick on ESPN. Arizona State heading in to take on the Utes, Stephen. Which way are you leaning? What's your pick in the game of the week?
I do think that this is going to be, um, it's our game of the week, but I think that it's going to be one of the best games to watch out of all the games of the Big 12 slate this week. Utah, obviously, we've seen what they can do. Watching Arizona State's games, they are the truth, man. They very much believe and have a lot of other people believing that they deserve that playoff spot again this year for the automatic qualifier. Like Kenny Dillingham and the way that he gets his team up. So while I believe it's going to be a one-score game, potentially even within 3 points, I think that I think the Arizona State's going to go out there and get the win. I just everything that all of the other teams in this conference, on the upper echelon of this conference anyway, believe, like Texas Tech. I believe Arizona State is what Texas Tech believes that they are, or wants to be at least. In terms of the talent and the execution and winning football games. I think Kenny Dillingham, man, I think that is got to be one of the best young football hires of the last decade, at least in college football.
Yeah.
I would have to say.
And I agree with you. I believe in them also. They were my preseason pick to win the conference, so I'm not going to pick against them now. And we're going to be in agreement on our game of the week pick also, because I'm going with Arizona State to get the win on the road to Utah this week here to round out our Around the Big 12 segment here in week 7, and pretty much get ready to put a bow on our episode this week as well, as we hit a little bye-week babble for episode 234 of the podcast. Stephen, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Like I said, can't lose this week. More positives than there are negatives this week. Finally, you get some guys healthy, come back from the bye week a little bit less banged up than you were. Hopefully, we can get somebody, formidable in that running back room, ready to go enough for when we have to go down to Orlando next week. So,
yeah,
looking forward to that. Do want to say, if you guys haven't already, or if you're new channel members, we do a watch along game every single away game. I think this one we're going to be doing it from my house.
Yeah.
So if you're tuning into this one and you're looking for something to do while you're watching the game next week, you're more than welcome to watch it with us.
Absolutely, and we would love you to. You can do that with the join button in the video description on the YouTube channel homepage. You'll get a ton of bonus content, including those game watch parties that Steven's referencing there, which has been a traveling show a bit this season. We've done one here in my studio. We've done one at Brad's house. We're doing one at Steven's house. So it's been a lot of fun thus far this year, and we really enjoy those with you guys. And appreciate you plugging that, Steven. And with that being said, speaking of plugging future episodes, man, I'm excited. I can't wait to dive into that UCF preview coming out of the bye week, see who's healthy. I think that's going to be fun. So be on the lookout for that next week, in addition to any other content that we may drop here on the Country Roads webcast. We appreciate you guys always tuning in, whether you watch on YouTube. If you do, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. That helps us a ton with the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel so you get these episodes directly into your feed once we release them. And thank you to you guys that listen on the audio side, which you can find on any podcast platform. Leave us a rating there. That helps us out as well. And of course, shout out to our friends over at WVSportsNow.com for hosting our episodes on their website as well. With that being said, it's a bye-week babble episode is now complete, and we're looking forward to the back half of the West Virginia football season, as we know you guys all are as well. For my co-host Steven, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those